All right, guys. So we have some big news coming out very, very soon. The Trump case is ending. The hush money New York trial. And look, I don't want to overreach on this, but the fact of the matter is we're going to get a really good understanding about how good of a chance Joe Biden has in this next election based on the results of this trial, right? He is struggling. Joe Biden is down in so many polls. In virtually every swing state, he's down. Even when you account for the fact that polls have recently in the primary overestimated Trump's support, even if you account for that, it still looks like Trump would be the favorite at the moment. So a guilty verdict potentially could change that. All the polls I've seen indicate that if there is a guilty verdict, a lot of the moderates and the independents and the center-right people and the people who are on the fence, they abandon Trump. They don't want to vote for a convicted criminal. Okay, so we're about to get this answer very soon. The jury is deliberating, maybe as I speak and as I'm recording this right now. So this is a big deal. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a wrap-up as to what was happening the last day of the trial, or it might be the second to last day of the trial, because I don't know if the prosecution gave their closing statement yet. So look at this. Quote, "That was outrageous. Judge Merchan brutally scolds Trump's lawyer as he wraps up closing argument." Todd Blanche, one of the lawyers representing former President Trump in his hush money case, wrapped up his closing argument on Tuesday, but not before he got a lashing by Judge Juan Merchan. As he concluded his final argument before the jury in the defense of Trump, who was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business documents, Blanche reportedly made a request to the jury to, quote, "not send his client to prison." According to Harry Littman of the LA Times, Merchan responded harshly, saying, quote, "I think that was outrageous, Mr. Blanche. Someone who has been a prosecutor as long as you should know. It's hard for me to imagine how that was accidental in any way." The accounts of the statement by the New York Times reporters Maggie Haberman and Jonah Bromwich went into more detail about the exchange that followed. Bromwich wrote, "Before he concluded, Todd Blanche asked that the jurors not send his client to prison. Now, with the jury excused, Joshua Steinglass, the prosecutor who will give his side's closing argument, stands up and objects. That was a blatant and wholly inappropriate effort to call sympathy for their client," Steinglass says, asking for a curative instruction. Then Haberman wrote, "Justice Merchan is now excoriating Todd Blanche for making an outrageous statement. Merchan is clearly furious and reminds Blanche, and for the first time, that he was a prosecutor for long enough to know it was out of bounds." Quote, "Making a comment like that is highly inappropriate," the judge said. "It is simply not allowed, period. It's hard for me to imagine how that was accidental." The prosecution is set to make their closing argument on Tuesday, so that might be happening right now as I speak. Wrong. That would have happened yesterday. The prosecution is set to make their closing argument on Tuesday as well, with the judge's instructions for the jury expected on Wednesday. Okay, so right now they're probably deliberating, and the prosecution made their closing argument. Trump was complaining about the prosecution going last, and he was saying, the defense usually goes last. What the fuck's going on here? You're rigging it. Honestly, I don't know how it would work in a case like this in New York, in a criminal case, but for whatever reason, the prosecutors went last. But look, I might have a surprising take on this one. I don't understand, and I tried to look it up and see if there was a good explanation why. I don't understand why it would be inappropriate for a defense attorney to say about their client, "Don't send my guy to jail." Isn't that like the whole job? And he's like, "How dare you try to garner sympathy from the jury for your person?" Isn't the whole job trying to garner sympathy for your person from the jury so that they think, "Oh, they're innocent. Let me let them go. They're not guilty. They didn't do it." Like, the whole fucking job description is you're trying to get them off from going to prison, and you're trying to garner sympathy for them. You're trying to portray them as not evil and not wrong and not breaking the law. Now, look, I happen to think Trump did break the law in 1,000 different ways, but if you're Trump's defense attorney, by definition, your whole point is to make the opposite argument. So I don't know if anybody knows more about case law, please do me a favor and comment it below. But how did this cross the line in any way, shape, or form? Why is this not allowed to say? I mean, look, the best case I can make is that it almost sounds like the defense feels beaten down and feels like they're losing the case. So in a last-ditch effort, it's almost like For the love of God, at least, if you're going to find him guilty, at least don't send him to prison. Right? But again, I'm not even sure why that would be not allowed. But this picture certainly looks like they're defeated, right? But again, I don't get it. I don't understand why that crosses such a line, and the judge flipped out over it. But there's some other things to point out too. So Trump's lawyer apparently totally unleashed on Michael Cohen in the closing argument, and basically made the case like, look, homie lied to you. We proved on the stand that he lied to you. He has no credibility whatsoever. You got to dismiss all of his testimony. Just throw it out, right? And there are mixed reviews in terms of how well this landed. So you have a legal analyst on CNN. Remember, this is CNN we're talking about here. No friends to Trump. They say the prosecution, quote, fell way short of proving the case against Trump. So this is like a nominally anti-Trump outlet saying, I don't think this is going to go the way that they want it to go. I think Trump's going to get off from this. Now, funny enough, you also have an example of a former lawyer of Trump who came out and said, I think the prosecution proved their case. I think Trump's going down. So honestly, I don't know what to believe. Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC, he came out and said, basically, I don't think the prosecution did the job that they were supposed to do. I think Trump's going to get off here. So as I sit here right now recording this, I have no fucking idea what's going to happen, bro. I have no idea what's going to happen. Literally nothing would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets off completely. It wouldn't surprise me if he's found guilty and he gets some prison time. It wouldn't surprise me if he's found guilty but he doesn't get prison time, right? I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows what the fuck's going to happen. I think he did the crimes. I think he should do the time. But let's also keep it real. The job of a defense attorney is so much easier than the job of a prosecutor. And the reason I say that is a defense attorney just needs to poke holes in your argument. That's all they have to do. They don't have to make an argument of their own. They just have to say, here are the holes in your argument. This doesn't mess with this, and this is a contradiction of that, and this makes no sense. That's all they have to do. The prosecutor needs to come up with a whole narrative, a whole argument, and have all the evidence in the world to make the case so that there's not even a reasonable doubt. That's a high bar to reach, man. It's not like a civil case where it's the preponderance of the evidence. In other words, like if there's more than a 50% chance, yeah, go ahead, right? This is like, no, everybody's got to agree. There's no reasonable person can say, I don't think so. So I don't know what the fuck's going to happen, but then it'll be interesting to see. If he's found guilty, the polls show he'll drop a little bit. He will. Every poll I've seen says that. Right now, we don't know for sure if it actually happens what will happen, but the preliminary evidence says he'll go down. What'll happen if he's found not guilty? Will it be sort of like it was during impeachment of him, where he survived it and then his polls went up? Right? I don't know, man. Pins and needles. It's getting crazy out here. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.